Nearly 60 years apart, the deaths of Emmett Till and Michael Brown highlight the plight of not only being a black man in America, but being a black man in the media. Till's death came at a time where some would consider the greatest crime for a black man to do is look or less whistle at a white woman. Brown's death came at a time where some believe the worst thing a black man could do is talk back, or less become physical with the police officer. Coverage of both young men featured details that many think tried to make the crime justifiable or discredit the amount of anger and sympathy felt by others. This is seen in data from the article News, Race, and the Status Quo, the case of Emmett Lewis Till, on coverage in the Chicago Tribune following his death. Of the 33 stories in the Tribune on this issue, 18 described him as a wolf whistler, and 14 depicted him as making ugly or suggestive remarks to Mrs. Ryan. In an article in New York Times following the death of Michael Brown reads, Michael Brown, 18, due to be buried on Monday, was no angel, with public records and interviews with friends and family revealing both problems and promise in his young life. These are just two of the many examples detailing how nearly 60 years later, media still has a way to go in its representation of black men, as noted in the article Black Criminal Stereotypes and Racial Profiling. Following the Civil Rights Movement, the linkage between blacks and crime was galvanized. The stereotyping of blacks as criminals is so pervasive throughout society that criminal predator is used as a euphemism for young black male. And although media coverage enforces stereotypes, it's what keeps various outlets relevant. The way that journalism is on the open market means that stories are for sale, and what sells is stereotypes. Market-produced coverage will tend to misrepresent youth. However, media has tried to make some strides in covering the stories of black men. In a study of the Chicago Tribune and its coverage, it was found that Till's family was rarely mentioned in the story, and if so, was always near the end. However, there is a difference noticed in the coverage of Brown in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. The roles are flipped. His family and friends are featured first in the article and then officials. Another small improvement is the number of articles and angles focusing on the deaths of these two men. Research shows the Tribune's focus on Till was quite minimal. The St. Louis Post went above and beyond in its coverage and gave its readers multiple angles and articles following Brown's death. This is just a small step in the right direction, but there is so much further to go. As noted by Alini D. Janis, a public opinion and media research coordinator for the Opportunity Agenda in New York, solutions include reporters intentionally incorporating black youths into everyday or evergreen stories like those about Christmas shopping, and Bakari Kitwana, an author and executive director of Rap Sessions in Ohio, says journalists also need to remember their responsibility. It's also important for journalists to remember that their profession carries the weight of social responsibility, since democracy can't function properly if journalism doesn't function properly. By using these possible solutions and creating solutions of our own, hopefully we as journalists can improve the way we cover the lives of black males in all forms of media.